There was no telling how many drinks the girls had consumed prior to him and Cam getting to the club. But they were on their fourth set of glassware with them when the girls excused themselves as a whole to visit the ladies' room. "That sounds like an excellent idea," Gregg noted, getting up from his seat. "Fine, leave me alone," Cam remarked. "I'll hold down the fort until you get back, then it'll be my turn." Gregg nodded and hurried away. He knew he'd catch hell tomorrow for abandoning his brother, but if things continued the way they had been for the past hour and a half, with the three girls rubbing themselves all over Cam, his brother would be too drunk on lust to stay mad. Stepping out into the humid night, he debated whether to call a cab or wait for one to show up. Either way, he'd have to wait for its arrival, and he didn't have that much time before Cam would start to get suspicious. He glanced down at the corner. He'd up his chances for scoring a ride at an intersection. Shoving his hands in his pockets, Gregg strode to the end of the block. In less than a minute, he spotted one, the center number on its dome light glowing to show it was available. He raised an arm to flag it down when he heard someone call out from behind him. "Wait! Wait up!" Gregg turned to find a shapely brunette hurrying toward him. Meanwhile, the cab slowed and did a U-turn to pick him up. "Wait!" Curious, Gregg opened the taxi's rear door, but refrained from getting in. Something about the woman's demeanor told him she was either running late or running for her life. The woman arrived, breathless and flushed. "I'm sorry. I need this cab. Can I take it, please?" She glanced behind her, and Gregg did the same, but there was no one who appeared to be following her. She turned around and gave him a pleading look. "Please, I need to leave before—" She stopped and bit her lower lip. Gregg smiled. "You coming from La Rumba?" She narrowed her eyes at him for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah. Trying to get away before someone notices you're missing?" "How did you— Oh, you too, huh?" He gestured for her to get inside the cab. "Come on, we can share. Driver, just go. We'll iron out the details on the way." The driver nodded and pulled away, heading for downtown. Gregg turned to the woman who'd retreated to the other side of the vehicle, putting as much space between them as possible. "I need to go to Columbus Avenue. Let's say the driver takes me there first, I pay my half of the fare, and then he can take you home and you pay the difference," he offered. The woman's nervousness eased somewhat. "All right." "Driver, 2848 Columbus Avenue." The driver waved a hand to show he'd heard, and Gregg sat back in the seat. He kept his eyes on the passing scenery, but he couldn't help but take in the woman's heady aroma. This close to her, he could tell she wasn't one of his species. She wasn't exuding any mating pheromones his kind put out when they were interested, but she was intoxicating nonetheless. Surreptitious glances her way allowed him to observe the form-fitting, dark blue, sleeveless dress she wore. Its neckline was low, but not too provocative. Her bare legs were shapely, but the high heels she was wearing didn't look appropriate for dancing. "Were you also at La Rumba?" the woman asked. Her voice was low, husky, in a range that was a definite turn-on. He nodded. "By the way, my name is Gregg. Ravana. I take it you were trying to escape from there, like I was." She tried to make light of it. "Yeah, my brother talked me into going with him. We met some girls, but they're much more interested in him than in me. I figured I'd slip out and go home. I'm not much one for the party scene." "Me neither. A couple of friends convinced me to come with them, but I don't see the excitement in nightclubs." "So you snuck out and hoped to be gone before they let loose the dogs to hunt you down?" he gently teased. Ravana smiled. "Sounds silly, doesn't it?" "No, not really. I'm more of a coffee and donut, sitting by the fire and reading a book kind of guy." He chuckled. "That's why my brother says I'm still single." "Is your brother single?" "Yeah." "Sounds like his way of hooking up isn't working for him either." Gregg gave her a surprised look, and they both laughed. Ravana pulled out her cell phone. "Listen, don't think me forward or anything, but it's barely 10 o'clock, and since you mentioned coffee and donuts, it's left me craving some." Suddenly, the idea of spending an hour or two with this woman over a brew and a bun felt very tempting. Gregg smiled. "I think that's an excellent idea. Driver, change of course. Take us to the brasserie over on 16th.